I'm visiting here today with James Thayer. He is with Clark Capital. James, welcome to today's show.
Thanks for having me, Alan.
So, James, for the listeners, can you give a background before you came over to Clark Capital? What your career path and things that you did?
Yeah, so I started out as an attorney. I did actually patent litigation. My first big case was with BlackBerry. BlackBerry had been sued, and there was an injunction against them. They almost got shut down. So it was a fascinating time to be a lawyer. It was in Washington, D.C. I pivoted, went overseas, worked for a large global law firm, then went in-house in investment bank. So I was first in Frankfurt and then in London, and then decided I wanted to get home. My dad was sick, he was passing away, and I wanted to start a company. So we moved back to Utah where my wife and I had grown up and became an entrepreneur.
And how's the experience been?
So I wouldn't trade it. I stayed in my kind of core competency in the legal world, did a legal tech company, a platform to provide matchmaking between clients and attorneys. I had found that a lot of my colleagues at this big law firm, they'd get ushered the door after working 10 years really hard, and not because they weren't good lawyers, but because they didn't, the partners didn't want to share the pie with these lawyers. And so then these lawyers didn't know how to get clients because they never had to. And I'd also seen a number of clients that they couldn't get the attention of the big law firms. And I thought, well, that's silly. We got to get a matchmaking going on here. And so that's why I left to do that. And I learned a lot of lessons. I found that kind of the first 2 years of doing something, that's when you learn the most. And so kind of having been in a big law firm, then in-house, then going to be an entrepreneur, I've been able to keep learning, which is something I like to do.
Now, joining Clark Capital Partners, can you give some background on the company and some of the things that you've done?
Sure. So Clark Capital was started by James Clark. He was an entrepreneur. He started a company in the basement, and when he was in college, and he built that up, a company called ClearLink, and he sold it off, and then started investing. Went back to school, started investing, and started his own family office. So it's like a private equity fund, but it's the family's money. And he met another gentleman named James Harrison, one of our partners. They were at grad school together. And James Harrison had also built a successful business out in Europe. He was from London and had done some online insurance and had sold his company. They met in grad school, got together, and then they met me through, after I started my business. And so we have the three Jameses. We're all James. None of us are called Jim. I was called Jimmer when I was a kid. But we're all James, and what we do is we look for companies we can invest in where we can add value, other than just putting cash. Can we actually add value to the company? And that does two things. It de-risks our investment, and it helps the people that we're investing in. So we generally say we invest in growth equity. We've invested in a company called Pet IQ, which does health and wellness for pets, which is run by a fabulous CEO, Cord Christensen. That company went public over a year and a half ago and is doing great. James Clark still sits on the board. We invested in another company called Contour. They were a main competitor with GoPro. We had been a limited partner investor there. James Clark had bought assets out of bankruptcy and really turned the business around into more of an intellectual property play. We sold the majority of that business as well. So we've done a lot of different things. We also have a basically pharmaceutical company, drug development, called Curza. We license technology out of the University of Utah, and that's in the anti-infectant space, which we feel really good about. It's a company that can make good money, but also save people's lives. So we've done everything from software to drug development to consumer retail, consumer electronics. We don't really have a specific area we focus on. We focus on where we can add value.
Is there a certain criteria that you want to evaluate before somebody comes to you, you want to even consider working with them? Because you have a great track record and value added, but from your standpoint, is there a decision tree to say this is the type of company we want with revenue, or you don't want a startup with no revenue?
We generally don't invest in startups. We have that privilege. We do a lot of mentoring to startups, and we love to meet with startups, so we always tell them to come talk to us. But when we put dollars in, generally you're already making, say $1 million of net income before it's interesting for us. And there are always exceptions to the rule. Mm-hmm. And since we've had some recent sales, that's probably pushing up even more. We want even more income than just $1 million annually. But we do like companies that already have some good traction.
Okay. How does a company go about contacting you or Clark Capital?
So you can go on our website and just put information in. It's Clark with an E on the end, CP for capitalpartners.com, clarkcp.com. That's probably the easiest way. We respond to everything that comes in, and we generally don't. We always take a meeting. We generally don't just say no. It might be a phone meeting, but we always, since we've all three have been entrepreneurs, we know what it's like to be out there, and so we generally will talk to you. We have a smaller team. We kind of punch above our weight, but we try to be approachable. So
very good. Been visiting here today with James Thayer of Clark Capital, and thanks for being with us today.
John, appreciate it.